Hey YouTube, how you guys doing tonight? Kevin here coming at you. You're probably wondering, oh boy, what's this video all about? Okay, I get a lot of questions about ignition systems, about bad ignition coils, about bad points, condenser, blah blah blah, all kinds of stuff. And I am happy to say I'm going to do a video on that. And I've been doing videos on these, but different questions come up, and you guys have some incredible questions, and I love them. So with that said, I always try to answer your questions. And because there's so many of them, I try to condense them into 1 or 2 videos. Because I, try to get them all, I let them build up a little bit, and then, okay, I can do a video and cover this whole entire thing. So that's what I'm here to do tonight. Alright, so tonight we're going to be talking about ignition components, points. We're going to be talking about ignition coils, how to check them, how to test them, all that type of stuff. Okay? Differences, all that kind of stuff. So, probably going to be a long-winded video. I'm not quite sure. Depends on how fast I can do this. Alright, so we're going to get off. We're going to start with the basics. Okay? In front of you is 3 coils. They call this the stator. They call this the magneto. They call this the generator. Doesn't matter. They're all the same. Okay? You have 2 coils here with the fat coil windings. See that? There's 2 of them. Those 2 coils right there are only for charging the battery and for charging the powering the headlight, the brake light, the directionals, all that type of stuff. It has nothing to do with the ignition system. Okay? So if you took your battery out of the bike is still going to run. Unless you had a different system, but we're only talking about the KEs, the KDs, the KMs, the MCs, the G3s, G4s, G5s, G6s, G7s, G9, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1,000. We're talking about the MC1s. We're talking about the KHs, the KCs. All these little rotary valve 6-volt systems, the GTO, all those are in here. Okay? This video is touching on all of those 6-volt ignition systems, not 12 volt, 6 volt. Okay, so one question I had that was given to me is, I went to check my points ignition and the reading was all over the place. My multimeter was, this is a multimeter, was going absolutely crazy. How come? Here's how come. Because when this thing is put on, and the wire is hooked up, okay, when you test it, and how you test points typically on a regular motor, we use the multimeter, you get your 2 terminals, one goes up to here and one goes up to the screw, and then you read the what do you call it there, the ohms. Okay, you can put it on the Diode Test right there, or you can move it over one into the ohms. When you put on ohms, when you touch these together, get a reading. Okay? So typically what you would do is you'd put it on ohms, and then you go to do that and rotate the magneto, this thing right here, the flywheel, if you will. And then you'd check and see if your points. But that doesn't work for us. And that's the confusing part. If you had an older bike that had a 6 volt or a 12 volt system, that the battery ran the bike, that would work. But this bike doesn't have that. It has its own coil. This right here, this little piece of the generator, makes the voltage for your ignition. And how it works is, it generates power every time the magneto spins around, sends power to your capacitor and then to your points. So when you try to use the ohm meter, you're actually reading the coil. Alright, and you'll notice that there's no break in it. And you're sitting there going, that thing should be on, off, on, off, on, off. Well, technically it is, but it has to be running for that to happen. And because there's no real way to test it when it's running, you can't. Or can you? Alright, so let's take this thing apart and get into the testing purpose of it. In order to test your points, you must disconnect them. Okay? You have to disconnect. You cannot possibly do this with that connected. Because the flywheel cam is built into the flywheel, you can't go around and test it. So you have to remove it. Okay? So you have to remove your points. Now the points are in my hand. And the multimeter, we're going to put that on the diode test. So when you touch them together, the terminals, they make that sound. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the points. With the gap closed, you should have audio. Doesn't matter which direction you use. So I am not touching the bolt. I'm just touching the ground, the casing. That's where the screw goes through. Okay? I'm going to take my other lead. Where are you guys? And I'm going to touch the bolt. Okay. Now I had connection. So right now the points are closed, and my gap where the points gap is closed, and I have contact. Now I'm going to take a piece of paper, because it's very hard to do with what do you call it there? Only two hands. I'm going to open up the gap like so, and I'm going to jam a piece of paper in there just like that. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to put the wire back through the ground. Right there. See how I put it through back where it was when I first originally tested it, through the bolt hole. And now when I test the bolt, I should get nothing. See? Nothing. Now when I take the paper out, put the terminal back through and touch the bolt, it should have audio. Good. Okay, so this is a good set of points. Okay, that's how you test points. Okay, now, how do we know if the capacitor is bad? Now, this capacitor is read by what they call microfarads. What does that mean? That's the rating on how fast this thing pulses and opens and closes internally. Okay, basically what a capacitor does is voltage from this fills up the capacitor, and then when it gets to a certain point, which is measured in microfarads, it releases it. Okay, so it opens and closes. It holds. It's like a battery storage unit, if you will. It dampens things. It's like a dampener. Okay, or you can think of it as a regulator. Okay, you can think of that as a voltage regulator in a sense. So what that does is when this thing is generating voltage and the points are connected, this gap right here, you can see the gap right there when you opens and closes. If your capacitor is bad, there's nothing to soften the blow. There's nothing to dampen it. So what's going to happen is every time these points close, it's going to spark. It's going to be arcing. The capacitor's job is to stop it from arcing, or dampen it, if you will. Kind of like in your house, when if you have hard water in your house and there's rust coming out and the water just tastes irony, then you have a water softener. It makes it, more subtle, more easy. You can drink it. Doesn't taste like iron. Capacitor does basically the same thing. Okay. I use these different analogies because I know a lot of you guys out there are from all different walks of life, and you guys have a lot of things that are like, okay, I don't understand that, but I understand the way you just said it. So basically that's what it does. When I say it softens the spark, I don't mean at the spark plug. I mean at the points where they touch. Right there. See when it's open right now? When those things close, power is applied here. You're basically taking power and putting it to ground. That's what this does. Okay? When that happens, it makes a break in the circuit, and that's what allows the voltage to go up to your coil and fire. I'm not going to get into how the coil fires tonight. That's I confuse you really bad with that. But anyway, so one of the signs that you need to replace your capacitor is when you look at the points, if there's a lot of ash or a lot of carbon buildup on it, not carbon like you'd see on a spark plug carbon, like black ash, okay? It'd be, when you open it up, it should, let's see if I can get a good look at this point. I'll show you a set of clear points. See that round circle? See how nice that looks? How metal it looks? It doesn't have any ash deposits. Let me take a quick peek on something real quick. No, I throw all my old junk points out. Okay, well anyway, you would have a crust built up, or an ash right on your points. And if you have a thick ash deposit, that's the culprit right there. And if you have the ash, the voltage can't go through ash. So what happens is, it's like they're opened all the time. So you'd have to clean them. How do you clean points? Well, that's a good one. I use a file from like nails, a nail file. You can get them for like $1 over at CVS or Walgreens or any place like that. Don't need to get the expensive ones. And basically you just open up your points like that, hold them open, and clean the ash out of them. So they look nice. You can even use sandpaper if you want. Then you got to put them back on and re-gap them. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to hook that wire back up to here after you replace the points, or the, what do you call it there? Whenever you take it apart, you got to check the gap. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to put it all back together. I got to clean that little pin. It's kind of rusty there. Okay, now you get that on there, and you got to put your flywheel on. And then you got to rotate it until your timing mark right there. See that line? Sometimes they go in the front, sometimes they don't. See that line? Up underneath. See if I can show you. I'll just take you out of the thing real quick. Hold on one second. Right there. See the red line? You have to line, I made it red. I always highlight it, but it's located right next to the top screw on your magneto. Okay, you're going to line those two up. Okay, sorry about the video guys doing that. Okay. Then, through the window, right there, you're going to loosen up. There's a screw right here. And that screw is located right on the top there. See if you can see that or not. There we go. Okay, you're going to loosen, you're just going to crack it loose. So it's you don't over tighten them, you're just going to crack it loose. And right here is how you can adjust them. Through that little piece on the side there, you can adjust your points that way. And then, when it's all together, this piece right here, this is a tool that I made. This is actually the hub from inside an old flywheel. So I can put this on. There's a timing mark right there. I line that up. And then I can adjust my points. Make sure it's lined up. Okay. Then I lock it down and it's all set. And then when I turn it, you can see them going up and down. Okay? And that's how you do points. Now, On all these bikes that I have explained to you, the points gap is all the same. Alright, which I'm going to read off to you right now. The points gap that I just used, I used a feeler gauge, they call it. Okay, shows you right on the, can't see it on the video, but it's got the number right onto it. Right there. Okay, so the contact breaker gap, which is that right there, is going to be 0.35 millimeters or 0.014 inches. Okay, which is what this is. This is the 0.014 inches, and that's your gap. Okay, or 0.35 millimeters. So that's the feel gauge right there. So I always like to give specifications when I do that. Okay, and once you clean and adjust your points, you should have spark. That's just a tool I made to help me do this without the magneto installed. Checking this coil, which never goes bad. I have never seen one, but sometimes odd stuff happens. So how this is there's a copper wire right here. It's copper wire. It's just goes all the way around. One end of it goes to ground, and then the other end of it goes to the capacitor. So what you will have to do is take and find the ground wire on it, which is screwed into one of the holes at the bottom, and then the other end's at the capacitor. And you would take your multimeter, you will set it all the way to the bottom, put one end on the ground, and then the other end on the wire once it's removed from the capacitor, and you should get less than 0.5 ohms. Anything higher than 5 ohms means you have a short. Okay? To check the capacitor, you would need a special capacitor testing tool, or you can do it my way, which is real simple. Look at your points. Like your spark plug tells you how the bike is running. The points tell you how your condition of your capacitor is in. Okay? Now, with that said, on the capacitor, I will be right back. I gotta go quickly grab something, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Okay, so in order to solder and unsolder this, what do you call it there, capacitor, you're going to need a heavy duty soldering iron. Now you guys saw the red one that I use when I solder electrical wires. That's not going to work properly for the capacitor. You're going to need the gun style. This is what it looks like. Let me see if I can shrink you guys down a little bit here. Okay. This is what it looks like. This is a gun soldering iron. This is made by Craftsman. And this one is a 150 to 230 watts dual heat soldering iron. Okay, so what basically you got, a dual feed. This thing gets cherry red and it gets hot. Okay. This will melt solder fairly quickly, and it's heavy duty. If you use a regular soldering iron on that, what's going to happen is you're going to cook the capacitor. So you need one of these big induction ones here. Okay, this one's made by Craftsman. You can get these anyway. You get these at least at Radio Shack, but Radio Shack is no longer. But anyway, you can buy these at a Craftsman dealer. Snap-on has them. You go to any used tool place. That's actually where I got this one. I got this one used. I paid like $5 for it, and they work great. So the pen type you can't use. It's just not going to work properly for you. and then you're going to get all frustrated because you're going to be sitting there and soldering it. Now, I also want to talk to you guys. The shell on the capacitor is the ground. So you don't want to get the solder on the side. So you don't want to fill it in. See that black right there? That's your margin. You want to get it right in the middle. So when you buy a new capacitor, it has these two tabs. Alright, and then you'll see like a button in the middle. So what you're going to do is you're going to stick the wire on the button and then fold the two tabs over it. And then heat it up on the edge, at the closest part to you, and then feed the solder into it. Okay? That's how you're going to do it. And then once you get enough solder built up and it's smooth, pull the soldering iron away and let it cool down. And that's how you replace a capacitor. The other thing you always want to make sure you do is this felt right here. You want to inspect it. Make sure there's no crusties on it. If there is, take a blade and just kind of scratch it off a little bit. And then put some oil on that. A couple of drops of oil on that right there. And the points will last you. Why oil, you say? Why do I have to oil that? Because that capacitor, that flywheel right here that I took off, I don't know if you can see the pits on it, but there's pitting, which is why it's now just a point tool. See how rough it is? How bad? How rust? Okay, it's smoothened out. It's just got some high spots to it. So that's how I'm able to use this as a tool now, because I wouldn't put it on. It should look like this. See how smooth that is? How nice it looks? That's because this right here was oiled. Okay? This one right here was oiled. If you don't oil them, they become rusty. And then you got to clean them up. Now, on the bottom part of the points, oh, I screwed it, man. I got to unscrew it. Hold on one second. On the bottom part of the points, I'll show you what happens. If you don't oil that, come on, let's go. Come on off. This thing is really, I gotta clean that pin on. This thing's only gonna be parts anyway, just magneto, but I gotta clean that pin right there. That's where it's getting hung up on. But anyway, oh, let's see if I get a light again. Okay, a lot of information on this, guys. A lot. Okay. On the bottom part of the points, you see this piece of plastic here. That plastic right there, you can see how it's kind of chewed up on the corner there? See it right there? Alright, that piece of plastic is what rides on this cam, if you will. So when you're doing it, let's see if I can get a light. The way it works is this piece right here, that plastic I told you, rides on the cam. And if this is all dried and rusted, it's basically just going to grind this down, and you're going to be forever adjusting your points. Because your bike is going to lose power, and you're going to be like, what the hell is going on with my bike? Well, that's because you didn't oil your felt, your magneto is rusted, and it's wearing on the foot, on your points that open and close it. So you want to make sure that your magneto is clean, your flywheel, the cam, and you want to make sure you got oil on that felt so you don't wear out this little pad. When that pad wears out, the gap gets less. Okay? And pretty soon it'll just stay like that, and then you'll have no ignition at all. So some good pointers right there. I always stress that. And always make sure your flywheel key is not, you know, what do you call it, distorted. And the nut gets torqued down to 36 foot-pounds. Okay? So your flywheel nut, 36 foot-pounds. Do not use air tools on it. And 36 foot-pounds, and I gave you guys a specification for the points already. Okay, so we're going to move on from that. Alright, so my other question was, I get a lot of people saying that they need an ignition coil. And they think it's the coil because there's no spark. I have not seen a bad coil yet. I want to show you guys how fat this coil is. This coil is huge. This is the 6-volt coil right here for the points ignition. Alright. It is a very common coil. It's used on many of our bikes that we can come in contact with. This is made by Nippon Denso. Okay? In fact, this whole magneto is. Nippon Denso has been around forever and a day, and they have absolutely mastered the motorcycle ignition system. Okay? Now, this is a regular coil. Okay? 6 volt. I see a lot of people go online and buy these stupid little things. And they go on eBay and they say, oh, this coil right here will work on your KE100. It will not work on your KE100. They say, oh, it'll work on the CDI version. No, it will not work on the CDI version. I already did a video on this, but I wanted to touch base on it again. This is a 12-volt coil. See how small it is? Do you see how big that 6-volt coil is? It's huge. They made these 6-volt coils bulletproof. See how fat? There's a lot of windings in there. Where's a winding? That's a winding. Okay, the copper windings. Okay, there are 2 sets of them in here, a primary and a secondary, and that's how the coil fires. But we're not getting into that part. Okay, this coil is 6 volt, but it's made to 12 volt standard. It can handle an awful lot without breaking. The coil that does go, okay, would be this coil. This coil is a 6 volt, but it's for the CDI. See how the shape of it is? Up in this corner right here, there's a circuit board inside this coil. And it has a transistor. And that's how it fires the spark plug. Now, they say that this one works on the KE100's CDI. Well, here's the problem. There's no circuit board in there. So it has no idea when to fire. It can't fire. It does not work. It's been tried. So you need, if you have a CDI, you need to get a Nippon Denso one. Or, what do you call it? A KE100 CDI. Okay? There's no CDI module on this bike. The CDI bike, it's built into the coil and just has that one pickup I showed you on many of my videos. Okay? I have a lot of people saying, Kevin, I can't find... I bought the magneto for the CDI, but I can't find the coil. They're very hard to find. Okay? Especially for the Kawasaki's. But you can find one for a Suzuki. The DS80. That coil works on the KE100 CDI because it has the same CDI. It's built into the thing. It just says Nippon Denso on it. That's the only difference. That don't even have a part number on it. The Nippon Denso one does, which is also on my CDI video where I did do a video on it and showed that. Okay, so let's get into testing this coil. Okay, this is a coil that has been hacked and rigged because they thought the coil was bad, so they cut the wires and wound them together. So let's get rid of this extra piece here. We don't need that. Taka. Alright. You have your ground clamp right there, and this end right here would normally have a spark plug boot on it, but it doesn't. We're going to pull that off. Okay, see, you can see where they hacked it. Okay, it's alright. It's still a good coil. So, what we're going to do to test this ignition coil, real simple. We're going to set the multimeter. Okay, let's see if we can put that up in the light. Hopefully you guys can see this all right. See if I can lay it down, actually. I need to build a workbench in here. Okay. Just checking it right now, so here. I'm just touching to make sure my connection is good. Alright. The black wire is going to go to the ground. And then we're going to test the black wire. So I'm testing the little black wire with the positive. I'm just holding it on there. And I'm going to touch the other end to the ground. This coil is so dirty. Alright, here we go. I'm getting it. Oh, almost had it. Okay, see right now, my hand's in the way. See right there where I have, what do you call it there, 2? This is good. If it was over 5, it would be junk. I gotta be careful because this thing's got a lot of corrosion. You also gotta take and clean these up when you test on these. The second test on the ignition terminal, the high voltage terminal, they call it the HT in the book, and then to your ground. You should have nothing. I have nothing. That's a secondary coil. If I had a reading, that means that the coil is shorted. Okay? So this is what confuses people. They think because it shows you voltage meter in the book that you're gonna have voltage, not voltage. You're gonna have an ohm reading from this one to ground, okay, and it should be less than 5. Then you go from ground to your HT or high tension or high power coil wire, and you should have nothing because they're 2 separate coil windings, okay. So keep that in mind. If you have no reading on this, that doesn't mean it's bad. That means it's good. If you have a reading, that's bad. And I'm going to show you on that brand new coil. This is a brand new, that brand new yellow coil right there. I'll show you on this one. I'm going to take the red terminal and stick it right in there. Boom. If I can get it in there properly. Here we go. Right like that. And then on the ground. See, I have nothing. Nothing at all. This is a brand new coil. Now, I'm going to take it off. And I'm going to reposition here. Get back like that. Touch it to the terminal. See, oh, I got 0. You can tell. Oh, that's nice. That's perfect. If it was 0.5, or like, I'll show you. See if I can do this. Yeah, this is perfect. Perfect. That's a good coil. You're not going to find a bad coil on these bikes. If you do, I will be highly surprised. Chances are it's in your points. So, I know I went over a lot of stuff. It's just, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things to be answered. And a lot of it is because of this. This right here throws a lot of people off when they go to put a multimeter on and check points. And they're getting this whacked out reading. And it changes too. I mean, literally, it changes frequently. And they're like, what is going on here? It's because you're reading the ground through here. You're reading the ground through here. And you're reading the points if they're open or closed. So, you're really, if you test it with the thing in circuit, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to get an accurate reading. You literally have to take the points, clear off the bike, and test them. And you could test, same thing with the coil. You check in the ground, you grab the wire that comes off of it, and comes up to here. It's a black wire. You take that, put that on there. You should have less than 0.5 ohms. If you have 0.5, if you have over 5, like 6, it's bad. It's got a short. Same thing with your capacitor. You can't really test the capacitor with a multimeter. It's a 25 microfarad. There's no way of testing that properly with one of these. So, some people say you can do it with a Diode Test. You can't. It doesn't work. To check your capacitor, check your points. Okay? When that thing goes, it's direct voltage from here to your points, and it will arc and spark and do everything else. So start the bike up, and look inside the flywheel, watch your face, and I always recommend wearing safety glasses. So hopefully this helps you out. I know it's a lot of information. You're probably going to have to watch this video a few times, but that's why I do these videos, to help you guys diagnose and find out what's going on with your bike. Okay? Also too, if you have a bike that has a stumbling problem, I'm going to show you another common problem with these points. What happens is the gasket around here wears out, or it leaks water in there, and it's a mess. Okay? It gets on the internal stuff. That's what puts the rust on the cam, which is inside the magneto there. It puts the rust on the cam. Okay? What it also does is it gets rust on that pin right there. So what happens is this right here will bind up and it will stick. Okay? And then it will snap. So when the cam passes it, there'll be a gap here at the bottom, which shouldn't be, and but it does, and it sticks. So check your points and make sure they move freely. If they don't move freely, do not try cleaning that part of it up. Simply buy a new set of points. I always recommend a capacitor after every second set of points. You don't need to replace your capacitor every time you do points. However, I do recommend it every second set of points. And you'll be able to tell the condition of your capacitor just by opening up your points. Okay? How long do points last? These points will last you an extremely long time if you maintain them. Okay? You can get 2, 3, 4 years out of them. Maybe even longer. What you got to do is, I recommend every year, take your side cover off, wheel it up so the window is exposing the points, take a flashlight, hold the points open, look at the condition of them, and if they have a little bit of ash or a little bit of deposit, that's normal. Take the file, go over it about 3 times, and then you're done. Okay? And basically do that. Also, rotate the window down to the bottom and give that little felt a drop or 2 of oil. Okay? And that's how you maintain your points and replace your gasket. On this side of the motor, where your points are, you can use RTV silicone. I use it. The brand I always recommend in all my videos, and I am not sponsored by them at all, but I love the brand and I've been using it for 20 plus years, is of course Permatex. And I use Permatex products on pretty much everything. I use my assembly lube, the Ultra Slick. This stuff is for everything. I use it for everything. It's a good quality product and I highly recommend it. So if you guys have a chance to use that product, try it out. You're gonna love it. And that's all I have for you guys for tonight. So hopefully this video helps you, and I hope you get a better understanding. And please, 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 I love the questions. If you have a question, send them my way. Don't be shy. Ask the question and I'll give you an answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find you the answer. So don't forget your points gap, that was in the beginning, your torque, and make sure it's clean. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. Please share my videos. Guys, I'm almost at 400 subscribers. This is awesome. The goal is 1,000, so I can start making some green on doing these videos. And when that happens, I'll be able to buy more and do more videos for you guys. And that's what I do on my channel. I buy, sell, flip, and trade up and do all kinds of things to get these videos done. So I put a lot of work and a lot of effort into them. So I really appreciate your support on all the stuff that you guys have been doing. Your questions and have been great. And thank you for your loyalty and thank you for sharing. So anyway, guys, you guys have a great night. Thank you again.